Hello,
Hey, Tim.
hello world. We're live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are at. Thank you for joining us here at Coded Live. And just like you, Joe, I also have voice assistants, and Alexa sitting right next to me, and she just keeps on saying things when she detects some motion outside my front door. But yeah, that's the life we live in.
Yeah, actually, for a while, I had her set to computer, to answer to the word computer, which just to separate her from everyone else in the house, because we have like 7 or 8 of them. And
Yeah,
once we started working from home, it was really awkward because you don't know how many times you say computer
yeah,
on a work call. So she kept going off, and I started muting her for a while, and then I was just like, I'm just going to change the wake word.
yeah. Anyways, so folks, welcome to Coded Live. You have likely joined us throughout the week for different coding streams, but it's Friday, so we get to kind of stretch our legs, relax a little bit, and have the conversations that we have been missing out since we can't do in-person things. Everything is online. At least we get to hang out with the folks we love to hang out with in person. So I'm delighted to welcome to the show my very good friend, Joe Guadagno. How are you, sir?
I am doing well, Sam. How are you doing today?
I'm hanging in there. Glad it's Friday.
That's
So,
good.
yeah. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So my name's Joe Guadagno. A lot of people at work call me Joe G because it's kind of hard to pronounce Guadagno. Only my true friends get it correct because it just takes practice. I work at Quicken Loans, the nation's largest mortgage originator now. I am a director in technology. I lead 5.5 teams now of
Wow.
software engineers that work on some of our platform specific stuff. I blog, I stream, I'm active on social media, I speak at conferences all over the world.
You really are all over. And
Yes.
I have known you for years and years now. You're inspiring with all the things you do. So, thank you.
My wife would.
Now, all right. So, like, where do you live? And do you like
I
it?
live in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. It's in the southwest portion of the country in a town called Chandler, which is, the suburbs.
It's a big town.
Yep.
So,
It's
like, a lot
it's
of dry heat. Do you mind it, or you okay with it?
No, I mean, we live for this time of the year where it's a lot nicer, where everyone is shoveling snow and, just like dealing with 30s and unders. We deal with 30s, but it's usually just at night and, it warms up in the daytime.
Yeah, big changes in temperature in the desert between day and nighttime.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the worst part. People don't understand. It's like, oh, it's hot there. I'm like, yeah, it's hot, but it starts off the day. If you go outside, like when we actually worked and went outside, uh, it'd be 30 some odd degrees when I leave and then come home and it's 70. It's like a 40-degree difference in one day. You can't dress for that.
yeah. Yeah, so I want to talk about all of the things that you do for the developer community, which is a lot. But let's talk about like what you do for your day job, which it's a lot. Like people say, like I manage maybe 5 folks in my team. You have like 5 different teams. So what is it that you all do?
Yeah, so I have actually 5.5. And the reason why I say a half is because I have a proof of concept team going that I'll talk about in a minute. But I have 5 teams that are cross-functional, combination of business analysts, product owners, quality engineers, and software engineers in a couple different technologies. We use Progress as one of our languages, as well as .NET and JavaScript and a couple other things. So these teams work on different services that we use internally. So our biggest is our fee service. So you just purchased a house, when you get a mortgage, there's a collection of fees that have to go out to the mortgage company, your state, local governments, etc. My team's responsibility is to put those on there and make sure they're as accurate as possible and making sure you are paying the right amounts that are fair and legal. So my team spends most of the time building out those services. But this year I started a new half a team. And it's a half a team because it's like 2 or 3 people on it that are working on a proof of concept to try out using machine learning to analyze our fees and see where we're not charging fees correctly or not collecting fees correctly.
Interesting.
And see if there are certain cities, states, municipalities that tend to fluctuate rates, so we can get ahead of that and properly collect fees from our clients.
Awesome. And before we go on, looks like chat room is filling up. Ricardo, hello from Mexico. Hello. We can say a little bit of Spanish. Saludos. Yeah. Hello. Thank you for joining us, and everybody else here. Welcome. This is the chat show. It's Friday. We are just hanging out with folks who are passionate, like Joe. So that's a lot of what you just said, and it's got like so many nuances with different counties and so many laws I'm sure you're dealing with. How do you describe like what you do to like a layman, like a 4-year-old? Like I have a 4-year-old. What do you do with computers?
So I help people tell computers what they need to do so that we can get money to help buy you those toys you need.
That's good. That's good. Ancient Coder, happy Friday. Yeah.
Happy Friday.
Glad it's Friday. So again, I mean, you do a lot of things for work and for the community, but let's kind of go back. Like, how did you start being in this industry? Like, did you always want to be a software?
Actually, I didn't.
Awesome. No, okay. So
really
tell
funny
me.
story. I started off, I went to school to be a high school math teacher. I love math and I love teaching. I went to school for 2 years, and while I was at school, I was working at a chain of stores called Radio Shack, which doesn't exist anymore.
I remember. Yeah.
And I also worked at this store that was a local store called Computer World. So like you have used to have the CompUSAs or excuse me, Micro Centers, stores like that. They were basically just big computer stores, but this was a smaller mom and pop one. And they started getting into computers there. And one of my regular clients kept coming in and buying stuff. And, I got to know him and his business. He was a real estate broker. He managed different apartments and houses when they came up for sale or tenants were leaving from an apartment. His job was to fill them. So he reached out to me one day when he was buying something and said, "Hey, Joe, I'm looking to write this software program to build, to track all these apartments that I have. Do you know anyone that can do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can." Didn't have a lick of programming experience, but I was really good at hacking, quote unquote, into files. So like at the time, SimCity was big. So I figured out a way to open up with the text editor, the save file and change it. So I had $1 million and changed the name from SimCity to Joe City, things like that. So I figured I can write a program, no big deal. So he says, "Okay, when can you start working?" I'm like, whenever. I can quit this job. It's like, "Okay, how about Monday?" I'm like, "Okay." So this is like a Wednesday or something like that. So I go home and I tell my girlfriend, "Guess what? I got a new job programming." She's like, "No." It's like, "Yeah." It's like, "You don't know anything about programming." I know. So we got in the car, went to her university.
3 days.
What was it?
I got like 3 days to learn in the weekend.
Yep. So we went to her university and got out a book on programming. I just looked for a couple and I got this book, which I wish I had, but we broke up and she kind of kept the book. It was about, I don't know, yay big and 90 some odd pages, and it was in Quick Basic. So I read through the whole book over the weekend, but as the saying goes, it was all Greek to me. I had no idea what it was saying. So I talked to the guy, asked him some questions, what he wanted. And I literally started with the example of the book, which at the time, Quick Basic was just DOS programming. So you had, line numbers, go subs, rem statements, copying stuff of the book, changing one or two words, see what happens, go back, change it. Ultimately ended up in 6 months or so building out a fully fledged system. And back then, unless you were on a mainframe, you didn't have databases, so you had to build out the database yourself. So I wrote out the files, I wrote out tables that were individual files, files that were for indexes. So you really got to learn how the computer worked. And then ultimately I started a quote unquote real programming job at that point. This was all about 28 years ago, something like that. And, ultimately got into real programming, quote unquote, where I actually knew what I was doing this time in Visual Basic, and then Visual Basic for Windows. And then ultimately when .NET came out, I kind of moved into C# and been doing C# and, a plethora of other languages, right tool for the right job. Now,
and here you are.
Here we are.
That's quite a story. Yeah, it's quite a story. It's a leap of faith. But I mean, one would say like you had your fundamentals in place with math. I mean, you know how to think logically.
That was it. It was just that I had the right thinking mindset. And that's what I tell people when they're looking to get into the field. Well, I know nothing about computers. You don't really have to know about computers. You have to have that math mindset or that analytical thinking, problem solving. And that's what makes a really good engineer, is someone that has that analytics mindset to it.
Absolutely. In the chat room, Manoj, BPU07, good to see you. Yeah, thanks for joining us. So let's talk about your present day. Obviously, you deal with big architectural systems and lots of teams doing different things. Like, what's the most exciting part in what you do, and what are some challenges?
For me, the most exciting part of what I do is the people. Like watching people grow. I've been leading this group of team. We started out almost 3 years ago now. In the current team, set of teams I lead now with 14 people. And as of yesterday, we're at like 45, 46 people in 5 teams. And then watching some of the people that were with us originally, how they grew into the roles they are. Some people moved on to leadership. Some people, have taken on more tasks. It's just watching that growth. And that's what that's kind of why I do what I do now. The technology is fun. We're doing lots of cool things with, like I said, machine learning, trying to figure out how we can make things better by doing machine learning. At the same time, it's not all, bubblegum and ice cream. There are challenges. I think 2 of the hardest things that I always face are actually 3. One is time. There's just never enough time to keep up with everything. But that's also one of the other challenges, is helping people keep up, because you get into a mindset where, hey, this is the tool I use. So everything kind of fits in that umbrella or fits within that paradigm, and trying to get people to challenge themselves to say, well, maybe not. Maybe C# is not the right answer for that. Maybe it makes sense for us to do it in native script or Angular or React, or maybe even just PHP. It's just because that one thing. So always, trying to keep up with the options and trying to get people to think outside of that proverbial box. The other challenge is, people. 45 people is 45 unique individuals that, have their own unique challenges. And, where I work and, just part of me, we generally care about people. They're not just employees. We call them team members, and our leadership style is the people come first. We're there to help the team members who do the work be able to do it and do it successfully. So I try to take on as much of the emotional burden that I can from our team.
That can be a lot, dealing with like 45 people, and different circumstances that they're coming from their lives. So kudos.
Especially this time of year when we start going into our review cycle, where we're reviewing the work for the year.
Yeah, I remember mentioning like today was like you had the whole day blocked off for like reviews, and I know like it's early morning for you, so I appreciate you taking the time
Hey,
to
no
just
worries.
come
This
and
is
hop
actually
on.
2 hours or 2.5 hours into my day at this point.
Oh wow, wow. Yeah, so I agree with the things that you said. Like, I mean, technologies and things come and go. It's just the people that you work with that should excite you. And I also agree, like with the bubble that we get in, like we are always trying to, like when we have a hammer, everything is just going to be on the same solution structure, same thing that we are used to, just thinking out of the box and challenging ourselves, making ourselves uncomfortable doesn't come naturally, but that's how we grow, right? So yeah.
mean, if you
Yeah.
think about it, you mentioned it, the people. How often, when we're in real conference world, going out and talking, how many times were we hanging out afterwards at an event where we even talked about code or talked about
Hmm.
architecture or anything? It's always just, the hanging out. There's a big people aspect to
Yeah,
it that a
yeah,
lot
the
of people
human side
tend to
to
not
what
think
you do.
about.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about like the different systems you deal with, the software that you make. What type of architectures do you deal with? Like, what languages do you use?
Um, I'll go ahead, cover as much as I can without, violating some of our internal things. But
Sure. Yeah.
it's known that we are a progress shop. We have some legacy
Yay.
systems that use the project or progress ABL language for it. We have .NET, we have JavaScript. We actually have a lot of different tools. Within my team, we're using a combination of Java, uh, JavaScript, .NET, and Progress. And the architecture is kind of like all over the place. We have some of the legacy stuff that's all mainframe based and client server ish. It's more of server with the client on it. And then we have a series of web servers that we talk to for our web services, which are
Hmm.
a combination of true REST services. Some of them are actually uh, WCF based services that we're in
Uh,
the process of
hmm.
upgrading. Some of them are on prem, some are in the cloud. So, my product vision for for the last year and the next 2 or 3 years is to start modernizing all of them and move them into the cloud. We have some of our services in the cloud, but they're using, legacy technology. Say legacy technology is just .NET framework, not even, which is legacy now, considering core's
Yeah.
been out for 5 or 6 years
5 years
now.
now. Yeah.
But trying to modernize our tech stack. Ideally, we want whatever we can to be off-prem and in the cloud.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is the reality for just so many enterprises, right? You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Like you have a mixture of different technologies in your stack,
Yep.
and that's what makes your things go. Because you're again choosing the right technologies for the thing, the right part of the solution that you want to. Yeah, and also you want to have developers who are productive in what they're doing. So yeah. Yeah, and enterprises move slow because I mean you have to have the little stability that you need to again keep things productive and provide that value back to the business. At the end of the day, you're enabling a business. So yeah, I think I always like to ask people about the architectures of the things that they're building, and it's always interesting to see like the different, like unless you're like a very new like a startup, you normally have a mix of technologies.
Yeah.
You're not just
You have
choosing
that
one thing in your stack.
baggage that you have to deal with.
Yeah, yeah, and like upgrading things, modernizing things. I think that's just a everlasting thing. You just keep on churning with time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all the things you do for work. But again, I think most people out in the community know you for all the other things you do. So, how did you even start getting involved in the dev community?
Uh, so I moved to Arizona from New York City around 15 years ago. Now, when I was in New York City, I did what most people in New York City did. I was the 9 to 5 or dark matter developers that Scott Hanselman likes to call us, show up, punch a clock, do my work, go home. I started getting into wanting to learn something else, more so C# was starting to come out. So I was attending user groups occasionally here or there. Then, family and I, aka wife and I, decided to move out to Arizona about 15 years ago. So I moved out here. I knew nothing.
You got
Knew
some Arizona
nothing.
fans. I don't
And
know if Exegeta, if you are from Arizona, but yeah,
yeah,
clearly.
I don't recognize the handle, but everyone has a different handle on here. So I moved out here and I knew no one. We had some friends of the family that lived out here, but they weren't into technology. So I started a user group.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what better way to learn is by me getting people to come and teach me, quote unquote, for free. So I started a user group and really got into that. And because I didn't have a lot of people I knew, it was just me doing a lot of the presenting. I'm like, I'll just find something I like and started talking about it. Then over a while, it kind of grew. And then I found INETA at the time, the International .NET Association, that was supposed to help user groups and people get into .NET technologies. And I became a member group of that, which ultimately added me as a marketing director, because the Rob Zelt, the president at the time, saw how well I was at getting my group popular and myself. So by joining INETA, I was able to start speaking outside of locally, more regionally. So with me being in Phoenix, regionally is either New Mexico or in most cases Southern California. So speaking in LA, speaking in San Diego, that kind of stuff. And then ultimately I did a lot of that public speaking. And then I got into conference speaking, like paid conference speakings, as an accident through Hurricane Sandy that hit the East Coast in, I don't even remember what year, 2011, 12, something like that. I was at a conference, I think it was called Dev Connections at the time, now known as Dev Intersection. And most of their speakers couldn't come in because they were all coming in from the East Coast, and all the flights and everything were grounded. So one of my friends, Dan Wallin, who is here in Arizona, he was on the speakers committee and reached out. They were looking at all the speaker committee, all the speakers that were there. Anyone in the West Coast that can come, because everything from the East Coast was there, because they already had, a couple thousand people at the event. And Dan said, yeah, reach out to Joe. Here's his contact information. He's in Phoenix, so it's pretty quick for him to get over. So they contacted me saying, hey, can you do a talk? We have these things. I'm like, yeah, sure. Here's a list. Okay, can you do this, and this talk? I'm like, sure. That sounds great. He said, how soon can you get here? It's like, I don't know. Where are you? I was like, we're in the MGM. It's like, no, I'm at the conference. What room are you in? I was like, you're at the conference? Great. So I went there and I ended up doing 5 talks with no prep work whatsoever. And that got me into there. And then, from there, I started getting into other events like, DevReach and other international things, NDC conferences, because I started, quote unquote, building a name for myself. So that's kind of how I got into speaking and technology. Blogging, I like to help people. So, rewinding back to the beginning where I talked about teaching, I love helping people. I love, watching people grow and educating them. So I figured if I'm having a problem with technology, I'll blog about it because someone else is probably having that same problem. So I got into blogging to help with, my writing and, just overall communication and branding. And that's kind of helped. And now, with everything being locked down and not going out as much, I kind of got into streaming, where I stream 3 times a week around lots of different things. In the beginning, I focused on building a .NET app from scratch, like Hello World. Now we're modernizing an application that was written in .NET Framework to .NET 5. So I try to do whatever I can to help people, because I live with one motto to I want to leave this world better than it was when I joined it. So I find an easy way for me to do that is to help out people
Yeah. So I want to ask a few more things around what you just said, but let's say hello to our good friends here, Curious Drive. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Good to
Happy
see
New Year.
you. Yeah, it's been, yesterday actually was my first, like, getting back into streaming after the holidays. So hopefully everybody had a relaxed and calm and peaceful holiday season. And speaking of getting back into speaking, Curious Drive, looks like you are up for speaking at a conference. So well done. You're taking the first step. And we all have the imposter syndrome sometimes, like, am I good enough? But again, you're putting in the effort to put yourself out there. So the first few times are obviously always nervous, but just relax. And again, I think we sometimes forget that we are speaking to our friends who are doing the same things. And if you, like, with age, like, we learn to kind of like laugh at ourselves. We can't know everything, and it's okay. We are trying to share whatever we are passionate about. So yeah.
I think that's the key. Something Scott Hanselman said a long time ago when I started speaking. He didn't say it to me, it's something he said in general, which has always stuck with me. You're not going to know everything. It's impossible to know everything. And it's okay if someone comes up to you with a question, or virtually puts a question in the chat saying, "Hey, I don't know. I'll get back to you." So don't
Exactly.
don't worry about it. It's great that you're actually going out and putting yourself out there.
And then what we are all doing, like, and Joe, you've been a pioneer, is leading user groups and putting together conferences. You put together Desert Code Camp, and all of that takes a lot of work, right? But again, you're building that extended family of folks that you can fall back on for like technology needs, and it's just a bigger network of folks that we can rely on. It's just our community, and it just gives us so much, like, uh, peace and safety in knowing that there are others doing the same things that we are.
Yep. It's
Yeah.
one big happy family. Like I like to say, it's the family you actually choose and like. Just like the MVP Summit is the family reunion for the family you actually like.
Yeah, and I wanted to go back to something you mentioned. INET used to be the International .NET Association, which supported user groups when .NET was in its infancy, and it went on for a good, like, almost 15 years. So Joe and me could do anything else in our lives, but I think we will always be branded as the folks who are last on the board, because it just did not scale, or there were no way to keep it going. So.
Yep.
Yeah, Joe and me were the ones who, quote unquote, killed it.
Yeah. Todd Englund and I had a conversation when I started running for the board. Todd used to work at Progress Telerik, and he was asking me everything I was going to do, when I started becoming president of it. And I told him, it's like, I'm going to be known as the guy that turns it around, or the guy that put the nail in it. Luckily, technically, it was Julie that finally put the nail in it, because my term ran out. Yes. But now at least I'm helping out with the .NET Foundation.
Exactly.
Still.
Yeah, new times, and even the best of things sometimes run out because times are changing. Yeah, so let's talk about, like, you deal with a lot of technology. What is something cool that excites you of late?
So for me, building my own home studio seems to be what excites me, trying to get all this lighting and everything works, so I can be not the green looking or sometimes orange looking Oompa Loompa from, I can't even remember the name of the show. But that and home automation, really, I'm a junkie with it. I try to automate everything. Like there was a post on Twitter the other day. Someone was looking for some help with something, and I think we hit the epitome of it in our household. We have lights for everything. You heard me earlier trying to get the lights. Like I can say, Alexa, turn off office lights, and my office lights will turn off. She won't do it now because I muted her just in case we started talking about her. But with us, everyone being home, I've been, the wife and I, the kids have been playing a lot of board games in the family room. Now we have automation that turns on and off all the lights. Even our Christmas tree turns on and off on schedules. But we got to the point where we can't even get up to reach, like, it's literally like 2 feet away to turn off the light. Or I can say, hey, Alexa, turn off light. I literally just bought a remote for the table so we don't have to get off the table or even grab our phones, because I could have just took my phone and a couple of key steps and ordered it. So that's one of the biggest things I love. I'd love to be able to write, more apps that could automate things a lot more. And that's one of the things I've really been focused on. Some of the side projects I have in my open source toolkit is a lot of automation. One of the things I've been really passionate about, but haven't been able to work on in the last 3 weeks, is one of my projects to help speakers with presenting. So one of the things I do a lot, I have a series of talks on my website that I can do, something like 20 some odd talks. And then if I'm going to speak at an event like a Dev Reach, I usually put some social media marketing behind it. Hey, I'm going to be speaking at that, like I did with this. I put out, 3 or 4 tweets about coming out here. I did some other things on Facebook, etc. But that's a lot of manual work. So I started automating that. Like right now, when I upload a copy of my stream, the stream episode to YouTube, I have something that automatically posts it to Facebook and automatically post it to Twitter. Same thing with blog posts now. Blog posts go out automatically. So I was working on building something that is more scheduled. So let's say I'm coming here, I can say, hey, I'm speaking on Code It Live on, what's today, January 8th, and it will start building up that social media platform for me. And then afterwards, when it's done, saying, hey, go catch the video here. So
I saw that. That's it's real nice, because a lot of what we do with like social, it can be automated, and it should be. We can. It's like you were saying, like it's good to be lazy as software developers. Like I'm big into home automation as well. We actually just got into a new home, and it's just like a blank slate, and I can do so many things around with LED strips and lights and garage lights and all that. So it's fun to be getting into this a lot. Sure is. And we probably don't have like all of the pieces all at once. And the same with like streaming setup. These things are art forms, right? So we just like buy one little thing at a time and just build it up. So
yeah, and that's what I've been doing. It's, what are we, 8 months into streaming now for me?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 8 months, and I literally last weekend bought some additional equipment to kind of just keep tweaking
it. Yeah. Speaking of equipment, what's your most treasured tech gadget?
Oh man,
you got so many.
Yeah, I got so many. Well, in the days of traveling, going to different conferences or back and forth to Detroit, where our offices were, I think my biggest treasured thing was my tablet and headset.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing like being on 30 hours of flying and being able to watch Netflix or
it's yours then,
or Amazon. But at home, I really think my biggest thing is my home automation. It's makes things so much easier, especially if I'm working. I can say just, hey, turn this on, turn this off,
mm-hmm.
or open up Netflix on Office TV, things like that. So that automation is what I really love. I never really buy a lot for myself. I always buy for the wife and the kids first. So
Sure. Yeah, and Execute is saying that the Raspberry Pi rack definitely helps. See, I wish I was into this a lot more, and I'm starting to realize like the limits of what you can do with out of the box stuff, and this really will open it up so you can do whatever you want. So I need to get into the Raspberry more. I used to, like, years and years back, and then I just let go. So I don't know what's going on in that world. So I will take a look for sure.
That was the next thing. I saw something one of my friends posted about he's using a Raspberry Pi right now to just do weather. My son, actually, who's not really into computers, he's in technology but not into programming, said that he found something on Reddit for like $30. You can build a smart mirror, like a mirror where you can have LED displays, show your weight or weather or tweets and stuff. I was like, oh,
nice.
That's kind of cool. That's
Yeah.
probably the next thing I'll get into.
Yeah, and I want to do something in my basement to figure out like water situations. But yeah, it looks like applied to bridge from Apple Home to all the tech Apple doesn't support.
That's a common thing.
Yeah, that's the thing with Apple. Like you're in a good walled garden, but you know the things that you cannot do. Yeah, like a Harmony remote TV. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and the tech companies, for better or worse, and you can't blame them. Like they like catering to their silos, obviously.
Yep.
Like we are into Samsung for a few of our things, and that's a whole silo. And then the things work very nicely when you are within that silo, but it doesn't work quite as well when you step outside.
Yeah, I use Samsung Smart Things to do all my home automation and controlling everything, including some of the TVs in the house. But again, you have to be in that ecosystem
Yeah,
for a lot of it to work.
All right. Well, you are super busy with your community involvement and your work stuff. But whenever you do find downtime, what do you do? What's your social and like work life balance like?
Well, back in the day, it was vacationing and traveling, seeing different places. I have the type personality that I'm never really down. Like I don't have downtime. If I have a free minute, if I'm not working on some community, I'm usually reading blog posts or learning about Raspberry Pis or something like that. That's what excites me. I don't watch TV as much as a lot of people do. Although lately I've started getting into it because, being at home in front of a computer 8, 9 hours a day for work and then blogging and streaming kind of gets burnt out. So
Mm-hmm.
I've never really been a big reader. So I'll watch some kind of sci-fi based movie or TV series.
Yeah. And Billy the Ninja is saying, yeah, Raspberry Pi to integrate Apple Home. Looks like a lot of people are into this to kind of bridge those gaps between the different silos that we talked about. So yeah. And home automation is just so enticing. Like once you get into it, you just want to do more and more.
It's definitely addictive.
It just sucks you in. Yeah.
I've been in 3 houses in the last 3 years, only because I moved to an area that I didn't like, came back in. But every one of those houses, like one of the first things I did, I counted all the electrical outlets and switches, and I went on Amazon and bought them and spent the day rewiring the whole house.
Yeah. And then you're right. Like, and both you and me travel quite a bit. Like the last flight I took was back in March. And again, I mean, we can all travel. It's just not recommended right now with everything that's going on. So yeah, you kind of have to not get burnt out with just the screens and just the things we see around the house. So yeah. Now, like, do you cook? Like, are you a foodie? I know you also like did a whole bunch of things to lose a whole lot of weight. So kudos to that. But what's your favorite food? And if you're not cooking, what do you do?
So my wife does most of the cooking. As you said,
That helps.
I've been working on losing weight. I've lost almost 50 pounds in the last year.
Wow.
But we're on a very restrictive diet. I think if, picking my favorite food, it's kind of hard. I like a lot of different things, but I get bored. Like I don't have necessarily favorites, so to speak, but being a New Yorker, being Italian, it's got to be pizza, and pizza from New York too, not necessarily just any pizza. I'm kind of one of those zealots that believe that there's no pizza like New York, just like there's no bagels like New York or in the New England area, for that matter. So a good slice of pizza is always good. But outside of that, I think I really enjoy Thai food a lot. It's probably one of my favorites because it's to me, most of it's the right blend of flavor and spice.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the couple of times I've had Indian food, but there aren't a lot of Indian places around here, and no one in my family likes it. So, for the last 9 months, I can't really do anything unless I order it just for myself and go.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Now, I do want to get back to like what you did to lose all that weight because like that's a lot. So kudos to you, and I'm sure like you feel much healthier. Your heart's better. Everything is functioning better. But what did you do to? Uh,
So being, as I like to call myself, borderline OCD, it was kind of easy. I had a problem. Yes, thank you. I had a problem. If you can see the before and after pictures of my face used to look like this. It's funny when I look at Facebook memories or so, you can see a massive difference. Even in my bio pictures, were when I was heavier. I just haven't been in front of a good camera to get it. But I looked at what was wrong. I mean, a lot of it had to do with the way I was eating and what I was eating. A lot of traveling caused problems with just bad
mhm.
food, airline food,
Yeah.
snacking on planes, etc. So most of it was really looking at my problems. So to me, it was a lot of the drinking. You're on a flight; it's easy to drink. Hey, I'm just going to call an Uber anyway. So, and just the poor food, it caused my blood sugar to be high
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
everything else. So I took a look at my overall diet and cut back on a lot of it. I cut out alcohol. I haven't had a beer or vodka in 15, 16 months now since
Oh
September.
wow.
It all happened due to a scare I had. I had a heart episode. It
Yeah.
wasn't a heart
I know.
attack or a stroke or anything, but I had a 90% blockage in one of my arteries. So it was like I
Yeah.
had to. It was called the Widowmaker artery too, because if that artery gets
Mm.
blocked 100%, you have about 2 minutes to live
Wow.
before you just pass. So luckily, I caught it when I did. So I had a, what do they call it, a second chance at life, so to
Hmm.
speak. So I took a look back, and I eat very different. I eat 5 times a day now. When I first wake up, I have under 200 calories, usually an English muffin or a breakfast bar. And then I have a mid morning snack, usually 2 or 3 hours after I wake up. So I'm normally up at 5, breakfast at 5, a snack at 9, and then lunch, usually under 500, 600 calories, a small meal, then another mid-afternoon snack around 3 or 4, and then 5 or 6 when I eat a little bit bigger meal, like 800 calories or so. And then eating 5 times a day helps your metabolism constantly
Hmm.
going. When you eat at breaks, your body stops and then restarts and stops again. So this keeps it constantly doing. And not only just eating the 5 times a day with the calorie counts, but watching what I eat. Staying away from the steaks and some of the highly calorie foods like fried stuff. I don't have anything fried anymore. Lean meats, chickens, etc.
Yeah.
So a lot of that has helped. And no more eating after 5. No more coming back to my desk at 8 o'clock working on a conference presentation and downing a whole bag of Doritos anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just that discipline, and it's helped.
That's good commitment. And I remember your health scare, and we were all scared. So kudos for turning this around. And like we get into this mode of just like eat, sleep, code, and like we are in a sedentary lifestyle and industry. But this is so important, and I've had the same like feelings. And it's a two-part thing. It's exercise and nutrition, and they both have to go together, and you just like feel more energetic throughout the day in what you do,
Oh
and
yeah,
this helps in doing what we are doing, so it's important.
my sleep is much better. My health is much better. It's just like Woody says on Twitter the other day. I dropped a small child. 50 pounds is not a significant.
That is a small child. Yeah, I think our 5-year-old is about 50. Yeah. Yeah, good for you. So this may be a trick question, or maybe it's not. Like if you had $1 million right now, what would you do?
I used to have a good answer for that. Uh, so right now, I would pay off my house, pay off the wife's or the in-laws' house and my brother-in-law's house. Whatever money I'd have left, I bank it, for a trust fund for my kids, but not that $1 million is nothing, but I wouldn't quit work or quit the community thing. I love what I do.
You love what you do.
The company
Yeah,
I work for, I'd still work. It'd be more so trying to make other people's lives easier, eliminating debt, and being able to do things like, pay for their vacations, like do a family trip somewhere once we can start, flying again and safely. So it's pretty much what I would do. Maybe upgrade my TVs.
The next guy is saying that's two of my kids. That's good.
They're nowhere near. There's maybe a leg of one of my two. So,
and then you have one kid or two? I forget.
Two. I have
two. Yeah.
21-year-old.
And they're almost grown.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So empty nesters or still with you?
We were supposed to be empty nesters, but my daughter ended up not going away to school. She got injured and she couldn't do she didn't go away to school because we had to take care of her injury. And my son just graduated from college and moved back home because he's doing grad school, and he graduated right at the kind of beginning of all this, and his grad school was online anyway. And all his
it's a different way of having like adult kids in the home. It's different.
So
I hope your daughter is doing okay.
Oh yeah, she played sports and got an injury for her back, and we weren't sure what was happening, so she didn't want to go cross country. She got a scholarship in Massachusetts to go play softball, and with the injury, she didn't want to at 18 years old go to a physician out there and PT out there and doctors out there without knowing them and without mom and dad around. So we decided to postpone it for a year, and then she kind of got it out of wanting to go to that school and wanting to play softball anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something that maybe you realize, like with age, like the human body is amazingly flexible and we can do amazing things, but it's also very fragile at some points. And like with age, you realize, like when you're doing weights and stuff, like your back, your shoulders, those are important things. You hurt those, you struggle for a long time. So take care if you're doing anything that might hurt those like fragile points.
Yes, it is. I know I got lots of medical bills for my daughter and my wife to prove it.
I hear you. All right, Joe. Well, I know you have a super busy day ahead of you. It's early morning for you. So thank you for taking the time to come out. Thank you for being who you are and inspiring us all. Leave us with some parting thoughts. Like, what are some things you're looking forward to in the next maybe year or next 5 years or so? What gets you excited?
So, ironically, not eating out at a restaurant gets me excited.
Just get me back to my normalcy.
Yeah, getting back to at least semi-normalcy. But I think what really gets me excited is the pure potential of where we can take technology. I think one of the positives of everyone being stuck at home is that innovation is happening a lot faster because more people don't have things to do, and it's accelerating some of the innovation. So things like driverless cars, things like that. We just have to also be careful that we don't build the next Skynet, so to speak. I think just the potential, like I look at it now, my in-laws who are, in their 70s, what they went through now from, when they were growing up to now with the difference. I really look forward to seeing what it's going to be like when you or I are that age where technology takes us, as long as we're not in that Wall-E kind of world where everyone's sitting in recliners.
Yeah, like I don't know if we're gonna have the same like technology gap as like our parents had with us, because like maybe they just missed the whole internet times, and maybe like the human computer interaction will be very different when our kids are like when we grow old. But I doubt like we are going to be like so out of sync with things, because maybe we have just seen this thing grow.
Yeah, we won't have that phrase "get off my lawn" really, except for joking. But like you said, I don't think there will be that big technology. There'll be some. I mean, it's obviously the people that are not in technology, but people like you and I will, it won't be that different for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. So one more time, Joe, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to come on. And, you and me and so many of us are at conferences. We are often sitting down in the hallways with a cup of coffee or a drink, and we are having these conversations, which is what we are missing out. So at least we're able to hang out. Yeah, I hear you. So
I actually had one of those too when I was in high school.
All right, folks in the chat room, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me and Joe this morning. I think this is the last stream for the week on this channel. So next week we have our regular scheduled things, but I think we are doing a special set of episodes for Signal R, which is real-time communications for web and mobile and other platforms. So that should be a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you all for joining, and hope you have a wonderfully peaceful and productive weekend. Where is Joe streaming? Joe G. Do you have a handle to put it in the chat room real quick?
Twitch.com/what's right there. Twitch.tv/Joe Guadagno. So what you see, you can go to jjg.me/stream.
Yeah. So that Twitter handle, that is, I'm sure your handle pretty much everywhere.
Yep, everywhere except for Facebook, because I got on Facebook way too late, but you can find me pretty much anywhere there.
There you go. All right, folks. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Joe. So until next time. All right.
See you soon, hopefully. Bye.